I remember the sheer confusion I had when DC first announced they were making an Injustice animated movie. Before learning more concrete details about it, I thought the idea of making an Injustice movie based on the video game would be redundant since all the cutscenes of the Injustice Gods Among Us campaign had the combined length of a feature-length movie. So if I wanted to watch an Injustice movie, I could just watch all the cutscenes on YouTube or something instead of watching a watered-down version with half the runtime. I had a little bit of hope when learning about the movie implementing some of the lore and events from the prequel comic in order to provide context for the meat and potatoes of the Injustice story. So essentially it mashes the prequel comic issues and the broad concept of the video game into one film. And how exactly did the movie turn out? Is it even a well-made DC animated movie?
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
This movie was some dog dookie, straight buns, absolute disgrace of an adaptation and one of the worst DC animated movies out there. It doesn't even matter whether you like the Injustice storyline or not, or how it depicts DC characters. The movie is a pitiful adaptation of both the prequel comic and the video game. It's one of those cases of a DC animated movie making changes for no actual good reason. Adaptations don't have to be copy and paste. Changes are fine as long as they benefit the story being told. You want to cut out some of the extra fluff from the comic or change a couple of things here and there that aren't consequential to the grand scheme of things, that's fine. Some of the best DC animated movies like Batman Under the Red Hood have done this. The problem is how they try to cram the main events of the prequel comic that has hundreds of issues and goes on for several years. The movie is just a nothing burger. It's got the buns with all the seeds glistening. You think it might be a good presentation when looking at the poster like, oh hey, it's an Injustice animated movie, that's cool. Then you take a bite out of the burger and it has no flavor, no sauce, no meat. As I'm biting into the burger, I can't feel any of the meat in my mouth. Pause. The pacing is horrendous because of this, making the film feel incredibly messy. I don't know why they didn't just make an Injustice animated series that actually covers the events of the prequel comic. You could have each season cover 1 to 2 years worth of storylines seen in the source material, like seasons 1 and 2 covering years 1 through 2 or something. It would also differentiate itself from the video game and have an actual purpose, as it shows everything that happened before the events of the Gods Among Us campaign. At the bare minimum, DC should have at least made it a two-parter or a trilogy if they wanted to get to the good stuff. Majority of the Injustice animated movie feels like part 1 of a much longer story. It crams a bunch of nonsense into a runtime of an hour and 18 minutes. A big reason as to why this fails as an adaptation is how quick the writers want to rush into things. The amount of storylines and issues they skip over is astronomical. You don't get time to see things like Wonder Woman manipulating Superman more and more into becoming the dictator we all know him to be. Freaking Ra's al Ghul did more harm with the Amazo android wreaking havoc and killing anyone who commits simple crimes like littering. Now if you want to switch Wonder Woman's role with Ra's al Ghul, that's fine. The issue is that the movie just doesn't give enough time to fully flesh out Superman's descent to madness, because it's like his wife dies and then immediately becomes a rampaging monster. Anything with the Green Lantern Corps or Sinestro is completely erased and not present in any way. I think Green Lantern has like, what, 2 minutes worth of screen time? Lex Luthor is never once mentioned nor present, as well as a bunch of other characters like Martian Manhunter, Black Canary, Huntress. Like damn, we didn't even get to see Alfred beat the brakes off Superman. All this movie does is kill off a bunch of heroes for shock value with no relevance to the actual plot, often killing off characters who played significant roles in the Injustice story, whether it be the comics or the video games. Amazo kills off Hawkman, then Cyborg, who had a pretty crucial role in the Injustice Gods Among Us story. Honestly, it feels like the whole point wasn't even to focus on Superman's downfall. It was mostly Ra's al Ghul near the end who let the Amazo android run wild, to the point where the few remaining heroes like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Plastic Man, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman work together to defeat Amazo, all while Damian Wayne fights Ra's al Ghul with Nightwing's help after he becomes Deadman. Then, I kid you not, during the last 8 minutes of the movie, a good version of Superman from the multiverse comes out of nowhere to fight Injustice Superman. The two duke it out for a little bit. Injustice Superman actually ends up defeating the other Superman in combat. Then an alternate Lois Lane from the multiverse comes in to talk to the Injustice version and make him come to his senses. Uses the classic talk no jutsu and Superman realizes the error of his ways. He gets locked up, then the movie ends. That's it.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no motherfucking way, bro.
Surprisingly enough, the movie's first scene follows the events of the prequel comic nearly beat for beat, using some of the same dialogue and everything. Clark finds out Lois is pregnant, Joker captures Lois and kills Jimmy, Superman's exposed to kryptonite-infected fear toxin, tricking him into thinking Lois is Doomsday, accidentally kills Lois where her heartbeat was linked to a nuclear bomb that set off in Metropolis. However, not even 6 minutes into the movie and it's already pissing me off. Bruh. One of the worst sins Injustice ever committed was what they did with the Flash Flash. They wasted no time in disrespecting Barry Allen. He has a total screen time of about like, what, 55 seconds? First of all, the Flash's death scene.
Did you just say the Flash's death?
Wait a minute, where the hell did this guy come from?
Man, give me that goddamn microphone. Let me God taking over. Tell me how a man with super speed, fast enough to search the entirety of the city within seconds, gets caught lacking by the Joker's hotbox. A part of your super speed is super awareness. You ADHD having distracted ass nigga. And what a waste of Yuri Lowenthal's voice acting. He had like, what, 10 voice lines? Less? I'm nearly certain he had more dialogue in Helldivers 2. This movie was a horrible adaptation of the famous and or infamous, depending on how you see it, Injustice comic. Injustice is one of my favorite storylines of all time. One reason why being that it made me view morality from a different perspective or two. As bad as the animated movie adaptation is, it surprisingly did a lot things better than even the video game adaptation did. One instance of this is how we actually got to see the death of Lois Lane, something that the video game was missing. We only ever heard of her by name and through Superman's actions, and with that being said, we got to see Superman kill his would-be baby mama too. The video game, unlike its comic counterpart, didn't show us that either. And I'm referring to the video game because the game was a large portion of people's introductions to the comic book, as it was for me too. Not trying to hate, but I refuse to skim past this. Homie, this may be one of the worst Joker renditions I have ever seen in my life. I don't like the way that he talk, the way that he walk, and I definitely do not like the way that he dress. Just look at that fucking mustache. Why is it above his nose? Seeing Lois die was extremely impactful. It gave us all the reason a lot of us needed to side with Superman. It's just a shame that an atrocious art style and absolute garbage storytelling led to this animation's quick and severe downfall.
Superman, are you okay?
What kind of dumbass question is that? I'm starting to understand why Darkseid did you as dirty as he did. Superman in this movie, to me, in regards of morality, is much better than the video game version. I found myself agreeing with him on a lot of what he was saying and doing here, but the dick riding Wonder Woman was doing was severely unneeded. I understand that the entire point of her character is to goad Superman on and tell him, yes, Superman, I think you should kill those prisoners, Superman. Yes, you have the biggest wee-wee, Superman. But the way that she does it with so much grimace and attitude just never fails to piss me off. But if there's one thing that pisses me off more than Wonder Woman, it's this worthless known as Damian Wayne. I'ma pass the hatred I have for this child down to my own children. My entire bloodline will feel nothing but rage at the mention of his name. Believe me, I have tried, but I will never not hate this boy. In the animation, he kills Nightwing. Fair, it happened in the comic. But I shit you not, Nightwing was trying to guide this kid, and his response was, "You're not Robin, so shut up." Then he threw the pipe at Richie's head and wants to act like it was an accident. Damian, you will never not be a failure. You were not your father's son, you were a non-consensual rape baby, and that is on God. M Enterprises, you dropped this.
Damn, bro was spitting some facts all throughout, not gonna lie.
Yes, sir! This nigga spitting. Damn, nigga!
On the topic of what they did to the Flash, I understand the sentiment of wanting to take Flash out of the story because of the lingering idea of not using time travel to prevent all of this nonsense, but you couldn't have come up with something less tasteless. Also, it's very easy to explain that messing with the timeline would only cause more problems than solutions. Case in point, the entire Flashpoint timeline. Didn't this man Barry Allen have an entire arc of initially siding with Superman, then seeing the error of his ways, eventually redeeming himself later in the series, such as in Injustice 2?
You fitting in okay? People treating you well?
Let's just say people here aren't thrilled to live in close quarters with the Flash, convicted regime criminal.
Pardoned regime criminal. Give it time. They'll come around.
Down everywhere. These spaceships showed up, jumping the ball and army on the city. They're killing everyone.
How fast can you get to Metropolis?
My pardon agreement was pretty clear on no powers.
You think that matters when aliens are invading? You helped tear down the regime, Barry. That's why Mr. Wayne asked me to take you on. And if Batman thinks you earned a second chance, who are you to argue?
You gave me a second chance.
Because you got your head straight and helped take down Clark. If he was still in charge, he'd still be wearing yellow.
I'm not that guy anymore. Look, I get why you don't trust me, but you should trust the Guardians. This ring means something. They put me through hell to get it back. Fine, I've got my orders. Just thought it'd help if we cooperate.
Lantern, maybe it's time I widened my circle of trust.
I'm not even doing this movie a disservice in how we've explained the events that transpired. It really is that rushed, tasteless, and uninspired. I was legit dumbfounded when the ending credits started playing. You cut out like 70% of the story. The movie only implements some things from the prequel comic up until the death of Green Arrow. After that, it cuts out the entire rest of the story to do its own thing. It pretty much doesn't incorporate anything from the video game story other than the concept of a good Superman fighting Injustice Superman, to which he didn't even beat him, and Mr. Terrific had to get an alternate Lois Lane just to stop him. Nothing in this movie feels earned. We don't spend enough time with really any of the characters. The remaining cast is so small that the overall story feels diminished, lacking any impact on the larger DC universe. Many key players of the DC universe you don't even get to see. Any story arcs with Sinestro or the Lantern Corps are gone. Aquaman disappears from the story like 20 minutes in. Even if we pretend that this is a self-contained story and the Injustice games and prequel comics don't exist, it's a bad movie on its own merits with how rushed everything feels and character decisions having no weight or impact. If a character dies, it's simply for shock value and the emotional toll of their death isn't really felt. The ending is absolutely abysmal. It feels almost like a Deus Ex Machina other than the fact that Mr. Terrific mentions the multiverse once to Superman beforehand. There were plenty of characters who are known to have survived yet are nowhere to be seen by the film's climax. Where are Shazam and Raven along with any of the other heroes who joined Superman or Batman? Where's Huntress at the end? Why did Hal Jordan just suddenly stop showing up? Where's Guy Gardner and Jon Stewart? They're mentioned but never present. Black Canary, the Titans, Martian Manhunter, ain't nobody in this joint. Special thanks to Demigah for being part of the video. Do yourself a favor and check out his channel if you haven't already. You will not be disappointed with what you find. Injustice is an abomination. Garbage ass movie if I've ever seen one. Please never cook like this again.